Hey students, welcome back to our second day of class. I hope that you guys all practiced your homeschool earthquake drills because that seems important today. I do not know if things could get any crazier for us right now. This is our first day of studying film and I'm excited about it. We're going to be using this fabulous book. I'm going to take most of what I teach you from this. I'm also going to use one called Story by Robert McKee and The Screenwriter's Bible by Dave Trotter, but mostly this one. It's called Save the Cat by Blake Snyder. This book is about structures of movies, so I'm talking about the events that happen in a story and how they build on each other and why the author includes those specific events and how they make the viewers feel and yeah, those are the types of things we're going to be talking about. The author's choices. In this book, Save the Cat, Blake Snyder, the author, proposes this idea that all movies really come from 10 different plots. And what makes movies interesting, we're watching really the same 10 plots over and over. And it seems like they would get boring, but what makes movies interesting is the way that authors choose to incorporate different elements from each of these types of plots and the way the author surprises us inside of these same very standard plot structures. So if you've studied screenwriting with me before, maybe your task can be to look for what's different about this specific plot, this type of plot in a movie that makes it interesting. If this is your first time studying screenwriting with me, then your job is going to be at the end of today to be able to identify one of actually everybody's going to do this job. You're going to be able to identify one of each type of movie and the three ingredients that make it that type of plot. Each of these different types of plots has three specific ingredients that will help you identify the plot. So that's going to be your assignment. I'm going to put the assignment in Canvas along with some notes from today's lecture. Just a recap of what I say so that it will make it a little bit easier for you as you're trying to identify these different movie plots. So here we go. The first type of plot that we watch over and over again, it's called a whodunit. And a whodunit is usually kind of a murder mystery. Whodunit stories are derivative of an old style of film called film noir. And a film noir it's a story that has kind of an aura of pessimism and fatalism and darkness and menace. The cinematography in noir was generally dark. You're kind of squinting to see what's going on in these stories. You probably have heard the phrase whodunit before, but we call it a whodunit because the question of why somebody did some terrible thing is far more interesting than the question of who did it. Usually when we start reading or viewing a whodunit movie, we don't know who it is. By the time we get to the end, we do know who it is, and we're more interested to know why they did it. The three ingredients of a whodunit movie is that there has to be a detective, and the detective is not necessarily someone with a trench coat and a fedora. They can be. In old noir movies, they used to be, like Dick Tracy style stories. The detective is someone who's trying to solve the puzzle or figure out the secret, okay? First ingredient's the detective. The second ingredient is that secret that the detective's trying to figure out. This is kind of the compelling question that drives the movie or the story forward. It's what you're waiting to figure out, okay? And then the final ingredient of a whodunit mystery is a dark turn. So this is going to happen in the third act, the final third movie of the movie. If you're watching a movie that's 60 minutes long, this is going to be about 40 minutes into the movie. And a dark turn is kind of a shocking surprise at the end. Is where you figure out this is the answer to the question, why did they do it? So for an example, let's say The Sixth Sense. Yeah, The Sixth Sense is a great whodunit movie. The detective is the psychologist who's trying to help this troubled little boy And the secret is that the boy can see dead people. And then the dark turn comes when we figure out that the psychologist himself, Bruce Willis, whatever his character name is, I don't remember, the psychologist is dead. So you've got your detective, your secret, and your dark turn. Okay? The second type of movie is called a rites of passage movie. And a rites of passage movie is about the rites of passage, the rites of passage in our lives, such as, for example, growing up, divorce, separation, financial problems, grief, loss, addiction. A rites of passage movie is a movie about somebody experiencing some sad life lesson, basically. And the three ingredients of a rites of passage movie are a problem, a wrong way to solve the problem, and an acceptance of the problem. Some good examples of a rites of passage movie are, I don't know if you guys have seen Mrs. Doubtfire. It might be before your time, but Mrs. Doubtfire is a story about a man who's experiencing a divorce. There's his problem. He doesn't get to see his kids anymore because they're mad at him about the divorce. And he tries to solve that problem in the wrong way. He tries to dress up as a woman and sneak into his ex-wife's house as the nanny, which is pretty creepy. And then at the end, his ex-wife has to figure out, of course, that he is the nanny, and she has to accept who he is, and they have to learn to get along so that they can co-parent their kids. Another example of a rites of passage movie might be The Lion King. Okay, The Lion King has a problem. Simba believes that he killed his father. And the wrong way to handle this problem is he runs out into the woods, into the jungle, and he lives with the stinky pig and the meerkat, I guess. And then the acceptance is when Nala goes to see him, and he accepts that he has to face up to what he did or believes he did, and he has to take back Pride Rock. Okay, that's a rites of passage movie. It's somebody experiencing the trials of life and growing up. Problem, wrong way, acceptance. The third type of movie that we're going to study is called an institutionalized story. And an institutionalizing story is about a hero, the protagonist, the main character, who belongs to a certain group of people, an institution, or a group of friends, or a family. Whatever the group is, we call it the institution in an institutionalized movie. And there's something wrong with this institution. Like they have a weird idea or some incorrect belief, or they're just dysfunctional in some way. It could be, a cultural belief or a religious belief or some detrimental societal practice that they're engaging in. And the hero is kind of a rebel against this system. So they have to defy it, and they question things, and they doubt everything that they're taught. So the three ingredients of an institutionalized movie are a group, the institution, a choice. The main character, the hero, the rebel, he has to make a choice about how he's going to engage with this group and fit into this society. And then a sacrifice. This is usually the third ingredient in all of these comes in the third act. So at the very end of the movie, in the last 20 minutes of the movie, the hero's going to have to give up something in order to get the better of this group somehow. The choice is the second ingredient. The choice, it generally consists of a decision to stick with the group and become a part of it, accept that they're weird and they're not perfect and love them anyway. Or they can choose to get the heck out of Dodge and not be a part of that group anymore. Or they can choose to try to change the group, to fix what's wrong with the group. So one example of an institutionalized story is the movie The Help. It came out maybe about 10 years ago, and it's about a small southern town and a bunch of white women. The institution are the white women who employ black women as housekeepers. So the institution could be like the servitude that these white women impose on the black people around them. And then the main character, Skeeter, she's a white woman, and she sees that something's wrong with this group. She sees that the way the white women are treating the black women is not acceptable, and she feels uncomfortable with it. And so she has to make a choice. That's the second ingredient. She has to choose, hey, should I speak up about this? Should I rage against this injustice? Or should I just accept it and become a part of it? Maybe hire a servant of my own. Okay, and then at the end, she has to make a sacrifice. She decides that she's going to go ahead and expose this injustice that's happening in her community, and she writes a book about it, and all the white people in town reject her. They're furious at her because of what she says about them and the institution in her book. So that's an institutionalized movie. The fourth type of movie is a superhero movie. You guys, I'm sure, have seen dozens of these before. They're so popular right now. And a superhero movie, obviously, it's going to be things like the Avengers, Spider-Man, Batman, Captain America. But it can also be about an ordinary person who does an extraordinary thing. Okay, so a superhero movie is about an extraordinary person who does something extraordinary. So a superhero's movie is about a hero who finds themselves in an ordinary world, and they have to come to grips with being special or destined to be great. The three key ingredients to a superhero story are a power. Superman is extra strong, or Batman has, I don't know, a lot of money, I guess, really cool gadgets. Mr. Incredible, he is really strong. And then that's the first ingredient, a power. It doesn't have to be a superpower. If it's not a superhero movie, maybe this superpower is some inner strength, an underlying faith in some noble cause, or a desire to be a good person, and they're going to use that power to overcome a problem. The second essential ingredient of a superhero movie is a nemesis, an arch enemy, and this character has to be equally as strong as the hero himself. So in Mr. Incredible, or The Incredibles, Mr. Incredible's nemesis is Syndrome. So that's the second ingredient. And the third ingredient is a curse. We call it a curse. Really, it can be like a character flaw in the hero. Some variation on like being misunderstood. Batman, for example, I don't know, I don't really like superheroes. He has a dark past. He has kind of a temper. It seems like Batman's always losing his temper and beating up bad guys. So that's the curse. The power, a nemesis, a curse. The fifth type of movie is called a dude with a problem, or a lady with a problem. A dude with a problem movie is a movie about an innocent, ordinary person who suddenly finds themselves in an extraordinary circumstance, and they have to rise to the challenge. So a dude with a problem movie has three key ingredients. There's the innocent hero, and they have to be dragged into a problem that they didn't volunteer for, or that they're not interested in being a hero. And then the sudden event. This is an event that's probably going to happen at the end of Act 1, 20 minutes into the movie, that throws this person into chaos. They have to solve a problem now, and they can't get out of it. And then the third ingredient is there's going to have to be a life or death battle about this problem. Okay, the stakes in Dude with a Problem movies are really high. So I'm thinking of the example of Apollo 13. The innocent hero is Tom Hanks, and some other astronaut gets the German measles, and so he has to fill in. And the sudden event are he gets launched into space, and they find out they're out of oxygen. And so they have to figure out how to solve that problem. The life or death battle is that if they don't solve the problem, they're all going to die. So there's a very famous line in Apollo 13 where Tom Hanks says, failure is not an option. We can't fail, or we will all be frozen in space forever. That's a Dude with a Problem movie. The sixth type of movie... The sixth type of movie is a fool triumphant movie, and a fool triumphant movie is about a fool kind of a not very bright person, like an underestimated underdog who has to go up against society, and he proves that he or she is worthy and capable, and they prove society is wrong about them, that they're not a fool. My son loves these kind of movies. These are like Napoleon Dynamite and Nacho Libre. Okay, the three key ingredients are the Fool, Napoleon Dynamite, Nacho Libre, or Buddy the Elf, classic Christmas movie. The second ingredient is the establishment. This is other people, usually society. In Napoleon Dynamite, it's the popular kids in high school. In Nacho Libre, I don't know. I never watched Nacho Libre, and I don't intend to. In Buddy the Elf, the establishment would be like capitalism and his dad's need to make Buddy a productive, rich man in society. And then the change is the hero becomes more self-assured. The third ingredient is a change. The hero becomes more self-assured. They prove their worth to society. Society accepts them. So Napoleon Dynamite becomes like cool and popular, and everybody thinks he's great because he knows a weird dance. And in Elf, Buddy's dad learns to value Christmas and Buddy's special personality. Okay. The seventh type of movie is called a buddy love movie. And in a buddy love movie, the hero, the protagonist, meets another person. And this person changes them. So romantic movies are buddy love movies. All those 90s rom-coms are buddy love movies. But it doesn't have to be romantic love. It can be friendship stories, stories about pets, stories about aliens. What's essential in a buddy love story is that the main character is lacking in some emotional respect. They're not a complete character. They have some kind of sadness or pain or personality flaw that needs to be repaired. And so the first ingredient is an incomplete hero. The second ingredient is the counterpart, the person or alien or animal that comes along and fulfills that need in the hero, the incomplete hero. So these two characters are a lot of times very different from each other. Like in rom-coms, it'll be some polite, respectable woman and some brash, abrasive, offensive man, and he has to teach her how to loosen up, and she has to teach him how to function in society, and they just complement each other really well. And then the third ingredient in a buddy love movie is a complication. So if it's a romantic movie, almost always this is a third person, an outsider who might make somebody else fall in love, and it's a complication to the romance that's happening. It can be, E.T., the movie E.T. is a buddy love movie. We've got the main character, Elliot, the little boy whose parents are recently divorced, and he's feeling some angst, and he's kind of dissatisfied. He's got some tense relationships with his family members, and what he needs is a friend. He needs to feel like he can do something useful, and so he finds this cute little wrinkly alien, and they become close friends. And the complication is that all the adults in the world want to study E.T. for science, and Elliot has to protect his little friend and get him home. So the complication is the adults, okay? Yeah, also there's Titanic. Titanic's a romance movie. It's about Rose, who's uptight and rich and snobby, and she has to leave that social world of prestige and glamour, and instead she wants to be part of like a more healthy social group. So she meets, I don't know his name, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Leonardo DiCaprio teaches her to spit, and he offends her mother, and they fall madly in love. So those are buddy love movies. The complication is that Rose's family hates him, and mostly that the ship is sinking. So The eighth, I think we're on 8. The eighth type of movie is called an out of the bottle movie. And an out of the bottle movie is when an ordinary hero is temporarily touched by magic. So magic is an essential ingredient. There are lots of stories that have magic in them, like The Hobbit and Harry Potter, but those aren't necessarily out of the bottle movies because the magic isn't temporary. The magic is a part of the world. Temporary magic movies usually involve a wish fulfilled, like a genie in a bottle, or a blank check, or Friday the 13th and you switch bodies. These are short-term temporary magic events. So it could also be like a curse, like Beauty and the Beast, he gets a curse. The hero, the protagonist, has to learn an important lesson about appreciating reality and not taking what they have for granted. So the 3 ingredients are a hero who's a nice guy, an underdog, somebody who deserves to have magic in their life. And then the second ingredient is a magic spell. And what's important about the magic in an out-of-the-bottle movie is that the magic has to be an illogical thing. Magic doesn't make sense, but it has to follow some logical rules. For example, in Aladdin, where Aladdin's a classic out-of-the-bottle movie. There's an underdog who deserves some magic. Aladdin, he's a nice guy. He's trying to help people. He's got a cute little monkey. He's just poor. And he meets a genie, and the genie can grant him 3 wishes. The fact that there can only be 3 wishes, that's the first restriction on the genie's magic. There's also some other rules, like he can't make anybody fall in love, he can't bring people back from the dead, and he can't kill anybody, okay? Rules make magic seem believable, and they make the story interesting because what's obviously going to happen is those rules that the magic follows is going to be exactly what the protagonist needs. Aladdin needs to make somebody fall in love with him. So the protagonist is going to bump heads with those rules. If the magic could just instantly solve any problem, the movie wouldn't be interesting anymore because the protagonist would just solve the problem and the movie would end. There would be no plot. Okay? The third ingredient in an out-of-the-bottle movie is an important lesson. The hero has to learn something from the magic, and that something stays with them after the temporary magic disappears. So ultimately, they have to fix things the right way without magic. For example, Aladdin has to tell Jasmine the truth, that he's not a rich prince. The genie tells Aladdin over and over, tell her the truth. So that's an out-of-the-bottle movie. The 9th type of movie is called a Golden Fleece movie. And in a Golden Fleece movie, a hero or a group of heroes or the main character and all his friends go on a journey of some type. And they're searching for something and they wind up discovering themselves instead. So the 3 ingredients are the road, the team, and the prize. The road, it's not necessarily a literal road, but it can be. For example, the yellow brick road in The Wizard of Oz is very much a literal road. But a Golden Fleece movie can also be a metaphorical road. Like I'm thinking of Ocean's 11, where there's a whole bunch of criminals who take a journey together. They plan a heist, a fleece, if you will, to rob a bank. I believe it's been a while since I've watched Ocean's 11. Okay, in that sense, the road can be a mental and emotional journey, not necessarily a yellow brick road. The Hobbit obviously is going to be a Golden Fleece because it's got a journey to Mordor. The team is the second essential ingredient. This is a group of people who help the protagonist. In The Hobbit, it's all the cute little elves with furry toes. Samwise Gamgee, and I forget the others. They're Frodo's friends, okay? In The Wizard of Oz, it's the Scarecrow and the Tin Man and the Lion. And gosh, I'm trying to think of another example. Back to the Future is a Golden Fleece movie. Marty's journey, it's not a road journey, he journeys through time, and his team is Marty and the Duck, and eventually I think his girlfriend. And then they're all seeking a prize. So in The Hobbit, they're trying to destroy a ring. In Back to the Future, Marty's trying to make sure that his parents get together so that he's born. In The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy wants to go home. Going home is a big deal in Golden Fleece movies. The Lion wants courage, the Tin Man wants a heart, and the Scarecrow wants a brain. Okay, those are Golden Fleece movies. There's a bunch of them. I'm sure you can think of some. The final type of movie is one of my favorites. Most horror movies are type number 10, which is a monster in the house movies. And a monster in the house is exactly what it sounds like. It's when you have an evil force, a monster, in an enclosed space, a house. Snakes on a Plane is a movie that came out a few years ago. Probably 10, but that seems like yesterday to me. So in a monster in a house movie, a hero or a group of heroes have to overcome some kind of monster in an enclosed setting. And so the first ingredient is the monster, supernatural. It can be insane or evil. A house, which can be any enclosed space. Often in horror movies, it's a house. Like you got the babysitter and there's an axe murder in the closet. Okay? And then the third and final ingredient, just a minute, Harvey, I'll help you in just a minute. The third and final ingredient is that some member of this group or the protagonist has committed some unforgivable sin that brought the monster into existence. For example, Jurassic Park is a monster in the house movie because the monsters are the dinosaurs and the house is the island. All these heroes, the protagonists, are trapped together on the island. And the sin is that old man with the ugly hat. He plays God and he creates dinosaurs. And Jeff Goldblum always says, "Oh, this seems stupid." And the old man's like, "No, it's fine. I'm rich. We got this under control. Everything's great." That's a monster in the house, Jurassic Park. So now your job is I want you to talk to your friends, maybe text other people in my other classes, talk to your families, your parents, see if you, with the help of your loved ones, can figure out an example of each of these 10 types of movies and identify the 3 ingredients in these movies. Sometimes a movie might fit into more than one. That's when these movie genres get blended together. That's what makes movies interesting. So I feel like as long as you can explain why the movie that you chose is an example of a buddy love movie or a Golden Fleece movie, that's what I'm interested to see, okay? And we can have great conversations about where the different plots overlap, where the different genres I use the term genres loosely, the different form of stories overlap. So these are due on Canvas. Get them in by probably Friday night, Saturday morning. I will go through and grade them. If you have any questions, shoot me an email, callienielsen@alpinedistrict.org. I'll put a link to the assignment in Canvas, and I'll probably drop one in the video also, just in case you guys have any problems accessing it. Have a great day, and I will see you in about 2 days.